Hello, Gideon. Welcome to today's UX Ghana webinar. And on today's webinar, we'll be talking about building effective design culture. And our guest for today is Joseph Curry, the CEO of User Hub Africa. And then he'll be walking us through a presentation on the topic, which is building an effective design culture. So I'd like him to introduce himself, and then he can get started with the presentation. So Joseph, I'd like to hand over to you if you're here.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that small introduction. So let me just quickly just show off my slides and then we can get started.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, thanks for joining. So as he said, so this is a presentation for building an effective design culture. So yeah, like my name is Joseph Curry. So I'll be going through this presentation, just giving an overview of how to build kind of a design culture for either your startups, your companies, or your even corporations. So before we get into the details, let me just give a small introduction for myself. So my name is Joseph Curry. So I am a self-taught UX designer. I've been designing since 2015 at the most. So what I do mostly, I do product design and user research. I've been doing that for the past 8 years so far. Yeah, and I've worked for different companies over those years. I worked for Flutterwave around 2017, and I've worked for Jetstream Africa. I think it was about 2021 or 22. Also done some work for some other companies, some project work involving web design, UI design, user research, and it's basically research in general, data research. What I'm currently working on is I'm currently the CEO of User of Africa. So it's a UX design agency. And also, I'm the founder of Tech Labari, which is kind of a tech news publication platform. So I think that's just enough about me. So today, I'm just going to talk about design culture. What's basically going to giving you an overview of what design culture is, why it even matters, like why do you even need design culture in your workplaces or anywhere else, and also I'll talk about the key elements in trying to implement effective design culture in your startups, in your companies or corporations. So yeah, we can get started on that. So first of all, what is design culture anyway? So when we talk about design culture, we're trying to say that it's a kind of an environment where if you're working in a startup or a company where design and creativity are flourishing, or where it's prioritized when it comes to design and trying to get ideas to make sure that your end product works well for your end user or your customers. And it basically encompasses things that include supporting design thinking and basic collaboration across the entire organization or your startup or company. So now, why does it even matter? Why do you even need to implement design culture as a business or startup owner or a founder? So a couple of things. So if you're incorporating design culture, why it matters is encouraging creativity and problem solving. If you want to stand out in today's business world, you need to actually stand out as far as being a company that's very design driven, has good product and good customer support. Also, you want to make sure you're fostering collaboration between teams. So if you're a big organization, you probably have a design team, you probably have a marketing team, you probably have a finance team. So design culture helps you to actually have better collaboration between all these teams across board. And one other thing that design culture why it matters is that it helps to actually enhance user-centered design across all your products and services. And it also helps to build your brand design. So you want to have a clear focus on UX experience. And it's a quick fun fact: design culture, especially with design-driven companies, they tend to have outperformed the U.S. stock market by 219% over 10 years. And if I give some examples of those design companies, so we know about Airbnb, Apple, Uber, Duolingo, Google, Revolut, Stripe, and Square. these are just a couple of companies which have great design culture and who are kind of the leaders when it comes to design in their workplaces and in their products and features. So the next slide I'm going to talk about, next couple of slides, I'm going to be talking about some key elements in implementing design culture. So we're going to touch on a couple of things, about 5 points. We're going to touch upon about leadership support. We're going to touch on collaboration transparency, talk about user-centered focus, the design process and tools that you need to do to implement some design cultures. And also lastly, we'll talk about continual learning and experimentation. So the first thing I want to talk about is leadership support. Why is it important to get leadership from um, in your company and your startup? So if you are trying to implement a good design or effective design culture in your company, you need leadership support. Why do you need that? Because leaders help to promote design thinking and prioritizing the business decisions. So for you don't need to have necessarily the CEO at the top, but maybe your business or project manager, or your design lead or your product lead to actually push for that. And the reason why these leaders can actually help communicate why design is important and why you need to integrate into overall business strategy. Of course, one of the major examples of leadership support in a big company is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple, he helped to create the iPhone and the MacBook, and his vision kind of led to these products being more user friendly, more aesthetically pleasing, and I think we saw what happened when the iPhone came out the first time it came out. Rocket sales and everything was good from there. So Apple now is like I think one of the most, yeah, I think the biggest companies, tech companies in the world when it comes to products and design. So another key component or key elements for actually fostering a good, effective design culture is collaboration and transparency. So what does that mean exactly? So if you're having a company, you want to increase your design culture or have effective design culture, you need to make sure that all your teams are collaborating with each other. That's design team, engineers or developers, the marketing, the finance team, the HR. Everybody needs to work together as one to actually make sure you're actually working effectively towards the end goal. And to achieve that, you need to have like open communication channels where shared goals are essential. So you need to make sure that the designers are talking to the engineers, engineers are talking to the marketing persons, the designers are talking to the finance team, all around to make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to creating a product or service for the end user. And one example of a company who does this very well or very effectively is Airbnb. They encourage all their teams to collaborate very closely with each other to make sure everybody's on the same page. And one thing that led to or has led to better collaboration is them creating a design language, which is basically a system or design system which makes sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to how the product looks, how it sounds like, the language they use, the typeface, the buttons, everything across the board. So everybody knows on the same page that this is how we talk to our customers, this is how we talk to our users, and this is how we kind of present our products and services for our user base. So another element of trying to create a design culture is making sure you're user-centered focused. So what does that mean? So if you're having a good design culture in your organization or your user startup, you need to make sure that you're prioritizing the user needs and the experiences of the users. I spoke a little bit about leadership support. So this is where leadership support can help. If you have a leader who's really well versed in what the end user needs, having a user-centered focus company is going to be one of the best things you can have. They're going to be pushing for gathering continuous feedback from the users, performing user testing, making sure the product is up to date, and iterating on designs. You don't get stuck in one place all the time. You need to iterate over and over again. Um, so yeah, I think one of the best examples of a company that's really user-centered focus is Amazon. So Jeff Bezos, who was the former CEO, he had a really good quote, and he said that we're not competitor focused, we're customer obsessed. So we start with what the customer needs and we work backwards. And of course, that has led to a lot of successful products for Amazon in the past and the future. So we know that the Kindle device is one of the best devices for reading books or other content on the go. We know that Siri, or not Siri, I should say Siri. Alexa, not Siri. Alexa is one of the best product that they put out when it comes to voice speeches and voice recognition. They had the Echo speaker, and of course, the Amazon Marketplace is one of the best products to do e-commerce online selling. So the fact that Jeff Bezos always pushing for the products to be better over time led to these products being very successful in the marketplace. And another example of a really good product that's also very, customer obsessed or user centered is Duolingo. So if you don't know about Duolingo, it's a language app where you can learn different languages on mobile or even web. And they use something called A/B testing. So A/B testing is basically kind of designing two versions of a feature, two versions of a feature for a particular product, and testing them with different segments of users. So what they do is at Duolingo, they test a particular design or redesign of a feature, like maybe an onboarding or sign up, and they test another feature or another version of that with another segment of users. And whichever product or whichever feature gets the most, I guess, conversions or the most success, they roll that out to the entire app for all the users to use. And it helps get feedback quickly. It helps you actually use analytics and data to see what's working best. And a fun fact about Duolingo is that you only have a 9% of the users paying for the product. I mean, if you ever use Duolingo, you know it's a free app. You don't have to pay to use, but the fact that they have 9%, close to 10% of the users paying for it, which contribute about 80% of the revenue, is a very big deal. So another aspect or another element of contributing to effective design culture is continual learning and experimentation. So what does that mean when it comes to design culture? So if you are an effective company using design, having an effective design culture, you need to make sure you're encouraging this mindset of learning from failures and also experimentation. If you have a company that's very rigid, you don't test or experiment, you're not going to have a lot of ideas coming into your workspace to actually push out products to users. These organizations are always fostering an environment where they can take risks, they try new ideas. A company that does this very well is Microsoft. So Microsoft has this, I guess, program called Garage, and it's where they provide their employees with space and tools to actually create new products or new services within house and test it for internal users before they roll it out to their other users. And so they do things like team coaching. They have new employee hackathon sessions. They bring students from the local community to come in and do workshops using Microsoft tools to build products. And they even have this annual Microsoft Global Hackathon. So if you want to encourage like experimentation, new idea flows, you have to create that environment where employees or your workers are not afraid to kind of test out. And this can be applied to anybody. It doesn't have to be the design team. It can also be for the engineers. It can be for people from HR. It can be people from marketing. Anybody can actually participate in this. So it's very good and effective for encouraging new ideas and experimentation. I think Gmail came from an internal like hackathon. Like I think two employees built Gmail for internal use, but Google saw its benefit for everybody else, and they rolled it out. So companies or companies or startups should not be afraid to kind of experiment within house and then maybe see if it works outside the company as well. So I think another final component of having an effective design culture is trying to make sure your design process and tools are standardized. So you need to make sure that you have standardized processes for tools you use. That's when designing, whether it's wireframing, whether it's prototyping or designing design systems, you need to make sure that you have a standard in place for how you're going to use those things. And you have to have a standard when it comes to what tools you're using. So at your company are using tools like Figma, are you using Sketch or DXZ. You have to have a standard when it comes to ensuring design consistency across board. And it does have to apply just to design as well. So it can apply to documentation. So if you are, doing user research, you need to make sure that you're standardized when it comes to documentation. Are you using Google Docs or your notes? Are you using Dropbox Paper? Are you using Microsoft Word 365? and even communication. So how do you communicate with maybe from the design team engineer? Are you using Slack? Is everybody using Microsoft Teams? Are you using ClickUp? Maybe using Discord for communication, Zoom for meetings, or maybe Google Meet. So you need to make sure that you're using or have a standard when it comes to using what tools. Because some companies they tend to use multiple tools all at once when it comes to communication. So you need to make sure you have a standard in place when it comes to how you communicate within teams. Also, same thing applies to your design tools. You need to make sure that if you're using Figma, everybody on the team is using Figma. You don't want somebody using Sketch, then you have to kind of convert it to Figma or vice versa. So you need to make sure you're standardizing across the board when it comes to your design tools, your documentation tools, your communication tools. So, of course, when it comes to trying to create a design culture, there's going to be challenges. Of course, it's not easy to create a new culture, a new standard. Some of the things that or challenges in place are resistant to change. Like if you're a new employee, you want to bring in new standards, you're going to face some changes because employees or maybe the company is used to doing things a certain way. So if the company has always been used to maybe using Adobe XD and you come in and want to use Figma, you're going to have some issues when it comes to changing minds or making sure that people are in place. Same thing when it comes to scaling across teams. Again, I'm using the design to its example. People are using one tool or they use these tools for the past year. Now trying to scale it, maybe a new tool like Figma across teams is going to be hard because people are used to doing things a certain way. And also, there's time and resource constraints, right? Um, if you are trying to maybe create a new design language, for instance, like Airbnb, trying to build that out across the organization is going to take a lot of time and resources because not everybody has time to work on this particular product. So if you're going to the marketing team who has a new campaign and they want to roll out a new campaign, you're going to them trying to get like documentation for how fonts are used or how what language are used. You're going to have a hard time because everybody's probably going to be busy with what the work they're doing. So trying to incorporate the design culture is good. You're going to face some challenges when it comes to resistant to change, scaling across teams, and time and resource constraints. So kind of have to take your time when it comes to trying to build that out. Whether you're a new team member, designer, engineer, everything takes time. But yeah, so I think just to recap, as far as all these things across board, so like I said before, you need to make sure that you have leadership buy-in. So if you're trying to effect new change or new systems in place, you need to make sure that you're talking to leaders of the company, whether it's the CEO, direct managers, project managers, to make sure that trying to bring in new changes as far as design and collaboration, they really want us to push for that because you as a new employee may have some challenges or pushback. The leaders can be the ones to make that push for you. And also, you need to make sure that you're fostering a collaborative environment. Teams need to talk to each other. Design teams can be just by themselves in a silo, or engineering teams can be within a silo talking to themselves. You need to talk to each other, and that cuts across board. Whether you're talking to the design team, whether you're talking to HR, talking to the finance team, everybody needs to talk to each other, figure out how best to make sure collaboration works effectively, and we're building for the end user in the end. And of course, yeah, you need to focus on user experience. You need to make sure that at the helm of what you're doing, you're talking to the users because you can't be within the company not talking to the people using your product. You need to, put standards in place when it comes to maybe administering surveys, bringing in customers to user test your products, or just doing one-on-one interviews. You need to make sure that you're focusing on the end user at the end of the day. And another thing is you need to encourage experimentation. It's good to let loose. It's good to make sure you're working on something that's not always the main products. Just see you can actually encourage, hackathons within the corporation where everybody gets involved. Give incentive. Maybe whoever comes with up with a new product or design using the company's tools can get some maybe bonuses or something. So that helps foster that collaboration and that user experience for everybody else. And of course, lastly, you need to standardize your tools, your processes. You need to make sure that everybody's on board when it comes to how you document your user research, how you design, how you collaborate or have meetings, whether you're using Google Meets, whether you're using Slack, using Microsoft Teams, everything to be standardized. So these are the kind of the five main elements or main points when you're trying to foster that design culture within your company, your startup or organization. Yeah, so I think that covers mainly everything. Yeah, so if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, yeah. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Joseph. I absolutely love it, and I also love the fact that you pointed out some design-focused companies or design-driven companies, because all, in fact, all the examples that you pointed, Uber, Airbnb, Apple, very very good companies. Because even for, let's say, with the CEO of Airbnb, I know that he came from a design background, and he's also been talking a lot about how design kind of like plays a role in shaping a product or shaping a company. So I was very happy to see that you put them in. But I have a question when it comes to trying to push for an effective design culture. Let's say I'm a designer at a company, right? And then I'm trying to advocate for a better design culture. I'm kind of wondering what are some of the pushbacks you've experienced in your career pushing for an effective design culture, and also how you're able to navigate those pushbacks, especially for like companies where the most people that you work with don't maybe understand design as much as we do,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think early in my career, I think I mentioned that I started designing like around 2015. Self teaching myself. So yeah, trying to work with different companies to actually push that design culture can be very very hard. I know in the beginning I tried to really push for more focus on research because there was no, I guess there was no foundation when it came to like doing user research or bringing users in to test the product. So that's some of the pushback that I've definitely faced, trying to get data from actual people because sometimes the company may focus on the analytics part, like, oh yeah, we have data, we can see it on our dashboards and everything else, but they're not focused on the qualitative side of things, like, you know, how people feeling when they're using a particular product. One thing I definitely tried to do, I tried to just make sure that, or maybe conduct, or maybe push my CEOs or my project managers to do like maybe just small scale research. So let's say I'll make a pitch or make a point that we can gather maybe 5 users, 10 users to come in or do a virtual call, and then we can do the product testing. So yeah, so I basically kind of made a pitch. Create that pitch on why you want to do maybe a research project, or you want to do user testing. So make a pitch, and this emphasize why it's needed and why it could be effective for the company. And so I think if they see the value in it, or just say this might be the outcome, maybe we might get more um, data on why they don't like a particular feature, or why they're not signing up, or why they're not using the product. That could be a good outcome because you can pitch and say, well, if we get this data, we can see why people are not using it, and we can iterate on the product and maybe get better retention or better acquisition of users. So, just to answer your question in the short form, is I would say if you're getting pushback, create that business case. Make your point out of why you need to maybe push for a user research or user interview for a particular set of users, and what the outcome would be, and make a business case. Just create a presentation or maybe a business doc, and just send it to your project manager and kind of talk to them about it effectively. So yeah, that's something I did in the past. It worked in some cases. I think the company I left, they are kind of still using that document or build upon it. So yeah, just a short answer to your question is just build that business case, that business document, and just push it to your leaders, your project managers, and make sure that you make a case for it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the answer, Joseph. Please, does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask Joseph? If you have any questions, you can unmute and then go ahead and ask. silence, I'm going to assume that no one has any questions. So, if no one has any questions, then I think we can draw the curtains for today's session. But then, for everyone wondering, the session was recorded and then it'll be posted on our YouTube channel during the course of the week. So you can visit the YouTube channel to check it out as well. And I'm pretty sure we'll also get the slides for the session too. So we'll add a link to it so that you can check it out as well. And if you want to get in touch with Joseph and also maybe ask him a question or two, he's in the UX Ghana community group on Telegram, so you can message him there, or you can also reach out to him on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn. So okay, yeah, his contact details is up on the page. So you can take a look and then reach out to him if you have any questions or you have anything you want to discuss with him. So, thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much for coming on and giving us such a wonderful presentation. And for anyone who's new to this webinar, it's also a series organized by UX Ghana, a monthly series, where we bring on a guest to talk about a design topic, right? So we've been doing it for, I think, since last year or last 2 years now. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. And once again, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Joseph, you can reach out to him on social media. And before we go to Joseph, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share with us. Maybe anything you're working on that you want us to check out, or
Yeah, so I think I've just put in my contact. If you want to email me or just I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Yeah, and you can check out something I'm working on right now. It's something called Labari Insights. So it's a data online platform where you can get access to tech companies and other data points or tech and media in Ghana and across Africa. So the link is in the presentation. But yeah, it's something I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. I think it's something really cool. You can check that out and just give feedback if you like. But yeah, apart from that, you can follow me on social media, email me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm always available, so you can just get in touch if you want.
thank you very much, Joseph. And I think before we go, I almost forgot. We also have a series. You're going to us a series that we just launched with Joseph. It's also on our LinkedIn. Sorry, it's also on our YouTube channel, right? Products Clinic. And I think so far we have one episode out. So if you haven't seen that episode too, you can go ahead to visit our YouTube channel and check it out as well. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much.